All right. Parashat? Vayikra. This is the last week we're going to be here before we're going to go on Pesach break. So let's try to make some impact on the matter here. So every society, or any society, or organization really defines a set of rules to themselves. Some kind of like internal laws that the goal behind it are not the actual rules, but more like technical details that are meaningless and so on and so forth, right? It's not it. Those rules were really meant to reflect to us ideas and principles, any kind of values that we have as a society, that this body or this organization chose as important to them. Always there is an idea that stands behind those rules, and therefore if we put it into actions, those rules, by actually stepping over the values, those rules don't mean anything. You always have the rules have to stay loyal to the ideas and to the values behind it. So an example for that, or a good example for that, we can find in the idea of korbanot, the sacrificial animals that they bring in this week's parasha. And in the act of bringing a korban, bringing a sacrifice, a Jew takes an animal or some kind of a representation from the plant. You know, they take solet, the farina, or whatever it is that they take in korban mincha. They bring the oil and the wheat together, and then he brings it for God, in front of God in the temple, which we all know the temple will be in Jerusalem, in the Temple Mount, where today it is being occupied by Muslims, illegally occupied. Let's put it this way. But this idea behind the Korban is not the actual slaughtering of an animal, but rather a yearning or a connection to yearn to between man and God Himself. And because of that, some of the Chachamim in Spain said that we see, for example, the prophets that were at the end of the time of the first temple really rebuking the Jews for the fact in which they abandoned the values, the spiritual values that stand behind the korban. People think that bringing a korban is like a heavenly shish kebab, a barbecue get-together of all the Jews in the Temple Mount, but this is not the idea. That's what happens to Am Yisrael at the time, but this is not it. Even though that they are focusing on its actual doing of the korban, but when you do it without the value behind it, it loses all purpose whatsoever. The Rambam saw in the korbanot, in the act of korbanot, an educational vehicle that was given to Am Yisrael to really push them away further from Avodah Zarah. Unfortunately, we love Avodah Zarah. We love idol worshiping. I mean, we all do. I mean, not we, but a lot of us like idol worshipings. And there are different forms of idol worshiping. One form of idol worshiping is putting pictures all over of a person, of this person or the other person. And whether you call them Elvis or you call them a Rebbe, that's a form of idol worshiping. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. Or giving people superpowers and telling people are above time, it's a form of idol worshiping. It's the concept of idolatry is really embedded in human nature, to the point that today, but look at the idols that we have today. You think that the idols that we have today, rock stars or movie stars or celebrities and so on and so forth, are really any different than the idol worshipping of the time of Baal and and ashtara. So it's not. It's the same idea. It's the same idea. According to the Rambam, which he brings in Moreh Nevuchim, the reason of the mitzvah of korbanot is using a negative tool, a negative instrument, which is the sacrifices they used to bring to the idols, and then turn it into a positive action, teaching the people how to take the negative and turn it into positive. I mean, which is very interesting. We always, in the world of mindfulness and all the other garbage that everybody comes up with nowadays, everybody says let's concentrate on the positive, but you have to acknowledge the negative also. I mean, I don't see anybody saying let's disregard the negative aspect of electricity. I mean, in electricity you have positive and you must have the negative, and together you create the light. What I'm trying to tell you is you have to acknowledge it. Yes, concentrate on the positive, but you have to acknowledge the negative as well. And that's exactly what the Rambam is trying to tell us or to teach us here. Instead of trying to completely eradicate it, because you need two sides. You have to have the two sides. If you have only one side, it becomes imbalanced. It's not good, and it's impossible. So in your pursuit to destroy or to eradicate these wrong thoughts that you have in your head and so on and so forth, that will be an impossible task, and you're going to lose a lot of power rather than actually trying to put it on a positive track. Let it work for you. Instead of you working for the money, let the money work for you. The whole entire world used to bring sacrifice to idols, like we do today. Give me a signature. So what do you care about somebody's signature? Who cares? People collect signatures, they take pictures, they go to fundraising. That's a part of idol worshiping. Why do you need to be with a politician? 1 second, Mr. Politician. Dear Mr. Politician, let me teach you something. Do you need to raise money? Go work. Why do you come after my money? But for a picture? What have you done? They haven't done a thing. That's a form of, we like that. And as a Jew, as an observant Jew, we should avoid that as well. When we look at the whole entire world, right? If I'm going to tell you again, if I'm going to tell you, no, you cannot do that, then you want to do it. It's always, we become like obsessed with this. It's like almost a control game. We like to control things, especially when what we could control, we don't want to control, but we always want to control what it's not in our ability to control. Right? It's always like that. So instead of getting into head bashing, according to the Rambam, with the people who like to bring korbanot, comes the Torah and tells us, okay, you can do so in a kosher way. Let's quote unquote, let's convert the process of bringing sacrifices and let's make it Jewish. That's according to the Rambam. As the Rambam says, why? And I'm quoting, Ki efshar latzet minigud lenigud bevat achad. You can't go from one extreme to the other extreme in one shot. By the way, you could see that people who were in one extreme, they will be easily switched to the other side, but those in the middle are stable. But what the Rambam is trying to tell us here, that when you go from one extreme to the other extreme, the way you came out of one extreme to the other, that's how you're going to come out of it as well. So if yesterday you were smoking pot and you were, by the way, I don't understand the smoking pot business, because people today, I went to do an MRI, like 3 people that were waiting in line all stunk from pot. I don't understand that. I just don't understand, right? But we're not talking about this. We're talking about something completely different, right? In terms of the way we look at things, the way we dress, the way we do things. It has to be appropriate. It has to be in a way, in a form that is basically glory to God, glory to Hashem, not for us. We shouldn't be doing all these things. So those people who do it for them, one day you are a pot smoker or whatever you are, they're not like Hickok 45. You know Hickok 45? This guy from YouTube, he's an expert in guns. So when he says, let's smoke some pot, he has like clay pots and he shoots them out. I don't talk about that Hikar 45 kind of smoking pot. I'm talking about the smoke. Those people today, he's a pot smoker, cocaine sniffer. Tomorrow he's a person rolling in snow and growing pale down to his belly button. Couldn't tell if the guy is having dreadlock or he hasn't pale. I'm not talking about that. That's an example that this jumping around gets you dizzy. In the end, you fall of the wagon. You're out. So, לכן the Rambam writes, אין אפשרות בטבע האדם שיעזוב ותראה כל שהסכין לה בבת אחת. It is impossible for a person in his nature to drop everything that you put into yourself, to drop it and change everything completely. It's very hard to do it. So, it says, of course, the pulchan, the sacrifice that they had was to bring animals and so on and so forth. They made the tzurot and the statues and they bow down to them, right? They will bring ktoret, incense in front of them. So, it creates by the way, it's very good for production. But the true meaning of korban, why is it called korban? The korban comes from the word that's something to bring closer, lekarev, to bring closer back. So when we bring a korban in Beit HaMikdash, or in life to that matter, we need to understand that we have to put, as we spoke before, and we have to put a kavanah, an intent into this action. And that intent is of extra effort. And by the way, if you think that you cannot bring a korban, and because of that you cannot be closer to God, I have news for you. You're so wrong. I'm going to tell you how you could do so. Have the proper kavanah when you clean for Pesach. Do clean for Pesach because you love God and you love the Torah and you love who you are, without complaining, with the proper intent. That's a higher form of korban because it brings you closer to God. You're willing to do what He wants you to do without complaining. What could be better than that? You think that you're going to get excited over bringing, Paschal lamb? Okay, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years. The third year, say, oh, come on, man, I can't wait till we go back to the time before Beit HaMikdash that we have to come here because I want to sit home and make a mistake and eat my palof and eat my gefilte fish or whatever it is. I don't have to go to Yerushalayim and sleep in the street. Believe me, soon you're going to get out of it. Why? Because you didn't have the proper kavanah to begin with. Just like anything else. You come into Bet Medrash, but at the beginning you want to learn, you're all eager to learn, and all of a sudden, I can't do this, I have to meet, Geronimo, I have to meet the other one. That's exactly it. You look for excitement. Why? You did not have the proper kavanah. So that extra effort that we're talking about, as we said before, aseh lecharav ukneh lecha chaver. Aseh lecharav ukneh lecha chaver, to teach us, because for true friendship, thank you, for true friendship, you need to pay. In other words, what's you need to pay for true? You have to invest. You have to make an effort. You have to go out of your way. This is what, it doesn't mean that you have to buy your way around, as buying a friend. You need to put an effort. If your friend is down, get out of your way. Do something for someone, and so on and so forth. You have to make an effort. Anything that is important, has meaning to it, you're not going to get for free. Anything that is important, you need to understand. And that's the mistake that most people make. Anything that is important, you need to put an effort. Without an effort, it's not important. So when you spin around here, you can't find parking. There are those of you who come and find parking, and for you, it is important learning. For the other people, maybe it is important, but for whatever reason, they're going to find any reason why not to come. Whether there's no parking, or it's too cold, or I'm not going to find parking, and so on and so forth. Your importance of what is important depends on the effort and how much are you willing to invest in it. That's what we learned from this week's Parashat. Don't think there's going to be any difference between the relationship of you and your wife, or you and your husband, or your kids, or your friends, or anybody else, or you and God, for that matter. If you're not willing to invest, if you're not willing to go out of the way, it's not important. I don't care what you tell me. It's not important. Of course, the question is, what should we feel while we are making this effort? Right? When we breaking a sweat over there. Are we going to feel difficulties? Are we going to feel that we are suffering? Or maybe we're going to connect to simcha, to joy, while we're doing this. Yes, it's hard to clean for Pesach. Yes, my knees hurt. Yes, my this hurt. My nails are breaking. But I'm joyous that I got another Pesach to clean. I spoke today to somebody that I get my matzot. I've been getting his matzot from him already for the past, 30 something years. So I told him, so I pay for the matzot $38 a pound. So I said, when the first time that I bought matzah, you know how much I paid? I said, I paid $10. He says, yeah, it's expensive. I said, no need to be apologetic about it. First of all, it's not your fault. But thank God, Baruch Hashem, that we are here to pay money to have matzah. Well, listen, if we're not here, matzah could be for free. You can't have it, and you can have all the money in the world. If there's no matzah, you can buy it. So let's look. It's okay. It's okay. Better off I spend $38 a pound for matzah than I'm going to throw it on some, quasi-kosher restaurant in who knows where when I'm asking the guy to put it on the fire for me, wrapped it with aluminum foil. That doesn't fly. So Baruch Hashem, what are you feeling when you're making the effort? What are you feeling? It's a hassle for you? It's not a hassle for you. The Zohar explains to us that people make an effort because they want to get some kind of a reward. They want something back. People don't want to make an effort. They don't get anything in return. To feel abundance, to feel pleasure, to feel bracha, to feel lucky, to have mazal, to have joy, and satisfaction, right? So in order for us to be able to draw all those things from the source of all the brachot, from the source of everything, we really need to be able to connect to the higher sfirot, to the appropriate sfirot. By the way, with the wrong attitude, you're not connecting. If you, by the way, a bitter person, if you're a conniving person, if you're a person that is not happy with what you have and very unhappy with what the other person has, you're not going to get any bracha. And if you get something, it's because you did something and you're getting paid now. You should know that. Change your attitudes. Become appreciative. A person who doesn't have an appreciation for somebody, I don't care if somebody opened the door for you. I don't care what anybody had done for you. If you are not appreciated for that, I have news for you. You're not going to appreciate even what God gives you when He gives you life. And that's for sure. So, how do we do that? We're bringing all this sferot closer together. We prevent the separation that was in the heavens. We bring them all together. By the way, Tatale, eat some chulent. Idan minutes, the last chulent before Pesach. It's like nothing else like this. So, how do we actually do it? While the way to do so is by doing actions of giving a tzura for that. In other words, we need to connect to the emotions, to the kavanah, to the intent, to the awareness of which awareness of joy, simcha, of love, ahava, of netina, of giving, of rachamim, compassion and mercy and kindness, right? And so on and so on and so forth. It's not just the action. Action itself, the action by itself is not good enough. But we need to put the proper kavanah for that. Well, this is how the shefa comes down. And by the way, this is what the Shulchan Aruch writes regarding Shabbat. Even if you're a millionaire, and you have, amazing, let's say you are the president of the United States and shish kebab. You are, and you have, everybody does everything for you. For Shabbat, for Shabbat, you're just another Jew. You got to do something for it. Because this is how you bring the bracha of Shabbat, by you making an effort. And I'm going to tell you this. I love to feel tired on Friday night. And I cannot wait to feel exhausted on Pesach. Baruch Hashem, I'm happy that that I got to live another Pesach. Well, hopefully I'll make it for next week. But this week it falls on Shabbat, on Motzai Shabbat. So I have time to recuperate. I'm a little concerned because I'm not going to feel tired. I want to feel exhausted. Because I know that this I'm doing so because I wanted to do it. I want to clean. I want to be tired. I don't care about this hurts or that hurt and that I'm on my knees scraping things. I don't want my wife or my daughters or my sons to do something. I want to do it. This is the attitude. As I told you before, Korban is also the letters of Karov, or also the letters of Krav. Krav means a battle, a war, right? A meladmed yadai lakrav, right? It says in Psalms, right? It's be'otai la milchama. So people think that David HaMelech was doing kung fu, he was doing Bruce Lee. Whoa, not necessarily that. Lakrav, as my teacher, alav shalom, Reb Chaim Israel ben Shmuel Ubatia taught me. He said to me, and it was the greatest martial artist. He said to me the following: the greatest battle that you're going to have is going to be with your own self. So Korban Mishum, war, what does that mean? We have to war, we have to fight, and we have to conduct a battle on what is really important, not on what's not important. When you are sitting down and learning Torah, that is the battle. All of a sudden you're going to see everybody calls you, everybody wants you, this break. This is the most important thing. You'll know that by the fact that there is the greatest interruption, that's probably the greatest thing that you should be doing, and that's your tikkun. When you're coming to learn Torah and there is a plumber, don't run to clean the toilet. You pay him for that. He does the work for you. You sit down and learn. You have to learn how to fight for what's really important in your life. And that's what I'm talking about. When you take an action from a place of knowing, from a place of willing to put the sferot closer together, right? To connect this physical world to the spiritual world, to the shefa, to the abundance, then the shefa is going to come. Only when you have the proper attitude. Not just for me, for everybody. Not only Jews, for everyone. The Ari explains to us that the initial reward that a person gets, Rabotai, you know what it is for that? You're getting paid for that. HaKadosh Baruch Hu pays you. You know what's your greatest gift that God gave? The initial one, according to the Ari, is just the fact that you are here to fight the battle. To fight the battle to determine who you are is already an award, because there are people who don't get the zchut, they don't get the merit to really define who they are, to define what they're about. That's a gift. And you should remember that. And you should know that not everybody gets the merit to sit down and learn. Even if you have to build the sukkah and unpack a car from Costco, right now you're learning, nothing comes your way. Or anything else that comes in your life. And to that matter, I'm going to tell you this. Either it's a wedding, or bar mitzvah, or whatever it is. Learning is number one. Would you put away, or you throw away, let's say, a chance to speak to your wife, or to go to a wedding? Most people would say, yes, I would rather go to a wedding to talk to my wife. But don't come and tell me that your wife is important to you. How about your kids? How about anybody else? The same thing, Torah. We got married to the Torah. Do you talk to it, or you're running? The first chance you have, you're out of the window. You're out of here. I'm out of here. Honey, I'm out of here. Because before you know it, guess what? It's over. It's taken away from you. It's given to you to somebody else who really wants it. They didn't get the chance. You better take this into heart, Abutai. Don't be so eager to be mevatel your Talmud Torah. And when you do it from putting the effort and understanding to bring joy and to bring light to your life, then your success is guaranteed. Because it says, what does it say? No, what does it say? כי תצא למלחמה על אויביך ונתתו השם אלוקיך בידך. When you decide to go to war on your enemy, God is already giving you victory. ואין מלחמה כי אם היצר הרע. So if you fall for the Yetzer Hara, and if you see that you falling, it's because you didn't go to war. And forgot who said that, right? We don't negotiate with terrorists. You don't negotiate with a Yetzer Hara. Listen, I'll give you this, you give me that. You go to war with it. So if you still have Yetzer Hara, it means that you didn't make up your mind to really go to a total war with the Yetzer Hara. And it says, because it says nilchamta, right? You go to war, and then Hashem gives it in your hand. And this is the essence of Korban, to bring the Sferot to be one. To be one, to connect the upper worlds with the lower worlds, to make God's will your will. And if you look at this again, and bring in the Korbanot himself, there's no problem with that. But the value that stood behind it simply was not present at the time of the Nevi'im, as it says, Ola ve'zevach lo chafatzti. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, I don't want this. What do you mean you don't want this? You told us to do so. You brought the Korbanot for yourselves, God said to us, not for me. And that's something that we need to take into heart. We're not doing God a favor by keeping the Torah, by keeping the mitzvot. He did us a favor. And this should be our attitude. And for that, the prophet says, Mi bikeshut miyadchem remos chatzerai. Who asked you to come with your filthy boots into my courtyard? Who asked you that? Even Shlomo HaMelech, that himself built the first Beit HaMikdash, writes, Aseh tzedakah u'mishpat nivchar leHashem mizbeach. By doing the right thing. Rabotai, today we don't have an altar. God doesn't need an altar. Shlomo HaMelech knew that. The altar that we all have, that we can all be priests and kohanim on that, is doing mishpat, tzedek, to be just, to be fair, to be truthful. This is your korban. When you do so, you are building the mizbech and you are the priest on it. So don't be so eager, like hoodlums, to build. When God wants, He'll give us to this. Right now, this is our job. I'm not saying, God forbid, I don't want to see the mizbech. I wish I will be able to see Beit HaMikdash. I wish on all of us. But there is greater work for us on an individual level and as a group. As a group of people, as a community, we also have to do mishpat. We have to do tzedek. We have to care about these people. Who is inviting to his house somebody that is sitting alone for the seder? Or are you all sitting there eating by yourself, filling out your stomachs with delights and wonderful things, and you know that there's somebody there sitting there alone? How could you? Who is too cheap to throw his money out? I mean, you go to order, you order yourself a Chinese food, right? How much is Chinese food to spend? I don't know, $30, $40, $50. You don't even blink an eye to give money to the poor people. I'll get to it. Don't eat. You don't have to eat Chinese food. You don't have to eat this kind of food. You don't have to eat sushi. But you do have to help the people. That somebody will have money to give on the table, to put food for his kids. How could you indulge in like beautiful roast beef when you know there's a person over there, they have to split a drumstick? I don't understand that. So yes, if all the rules of bringing the Korban, yes, the laws were all put into place, they're all put into action. But the ideas behind it were not present. It is our job to introduce. You want Beit HaMikdash to be built, you want Korbanot to be built, you want to do that, you need to reinitiate the ideas behind it in order for it to come, because we don't need empty actions again in our lives. We already had our share of practices that had no values, when they used to, bribe the Romans to who's going to become high priest. We don't need this again. Or chief rabbi or cheese rabbi. We don't need that. We need to remember that when we are leading people, or we're standing with them in a specific time, in space, when we're leading ourselves, that there is no doubt great importance to values and rules, but value, virtues first. It is also very important to make sure that those principles are embedded in us. In this generation when human interaction, or interpersonal interaction, is being substituted with artificial intelligence. Soon you don't need psychologists. It's like, hey, you're gonna put yourself on Chat GP whatever, GTS or GPZ or whatever. GPZ is a Kawasaki motorcycle. It's a very good motorcycle. Yeah, a friend of mine had a GPZ 1100. Oh my goodness. Oy vey. You don't need anybody. You don't need friends. You want to talk to whatever, Alexa, you can have Alexa. You can, whatever. You have Siri, Alexa, whatever you have. You don't need anybody nowadays. Especially in this kind of a time that we have. It's a very slippery slope in the AI world, the messages that we have, the text messages, the Zooms, the chat groups that we have. We might lose all those values much quicker and faster than we had beforehand. That feeling of belonging to something greater, or of the individual with the organization, is quickly diminishing because, for crying out loud, I don't even have to come to work to do my work. I think it's a terrible thing, by the way, right? So therefore you need a very intense group work and group effort together in an interpersonal relationship. I'm sorry to tell you, most people today don't even know how to handle a conversation with another person. They have nothing to talk about. And I'm not just talking about the Gen Z or the J train or I'm not talking about those terms. I'm talking about even people my age. They became so obsessed with text messages they cannot even have an intelligent conversation with another human being. They're so shallow that it's unbelievable. I think there was a song like this, in the shallow, right? Whatever thing to do there. The movie, Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga, you're in the shallows. We're in the shallows. We are in the shallows now. People are so shallow, they are more flat than an oak table. Flat. You can't have a conversation with another human being. It's unbelievable. And yet everybody thinks he's an expert. I read in chat, you give me an answer 2 seconds. I know more than I don't know, Brian Cox. I know more than, Albert Einstein. I know more than him. For crying out loud. You can't even solve a small thing of algebra. That you don't know. Needless to say, to learn a daf of Gemara. Needless to say, a daf of Gemara. You can't sit down and learn a daf for yourself. It's crazy. It's very easy to send somebody, Mazel Tov, or to say like, or to send a respond, and so on and so forth. But it's much more difficult to really truthfully care, to ask questions, and to really show that you really care. Somebody that is very dear to me lost his grandchild. What do you call this? Crib, what do you call this?
Death syndrome?
Yeah. A baby, like 3 weeks old or something of that sort. So what are you going to say? I'm sorry? Condolences? That's what most people do. Did you go there? And that's why Chazal tells us. Listen, technology was designed by people and not the other way around. Technology was designed by people. Our ability to really be able to go deep into something is not dependent on the technology. It's dependent on us. If we're going to be superficial, also our obligation to those who are with us is going to be superficial. In other words, we don't care. And we are learning very quickly not to care. The way in which we are going right now, I see greater danger to society and to Judaism in the way we are going right now than ever before. Because I can feel like I'm a Mikubal today. I just put, whatever, a question on Kabbalah, and it gives me a whole page over there. Or psychology, or that matter. Now you can, for example, you are learning to become a psychologist, getting a doctorate, right? And then you'll see that all of a sudden somebody will come to you and would argue with you and thinks he knows more than you because he looked at it as a chat GPT, for crying out loud. If you haven't experienced it yet, you will. Pretty soon. You did? You experienced that? Yeah. Well, ChatGPT says, So, but at the end, the people who are really important to you are going to suffer from that as well, because you're going to be superficial in all aspects of your life. It's like Israel. You go to the gym, you work out, right? Not on the phone, right? You go to the gym, you work out. How about you work out? Try to get in shape by watching Instagram all day long. Ain't not going to happen, right? Exactly. You might know all the you figured you're going to get carpal tunnel syndrome. That's what you're going to be getting, right? Mm-hmm. But you need to do the work. You need to put in the work. No guts, no glory. No pain, no gain. That's the way it works. Lefum tzara agra. The greater the journey, the greater the effort, the greater the reward. Now, it's very important to peel those klippot, those husks, in order to really reveal the depth of life and to bring that depth to our society, to our communities, to our families, to ourselves. We need to bring this depth to a level of a vision and values. Most people today don't have a vision. Now, especially in education, people have no vision and no virtues, and no values. It is very important to create true responsibility. True responsibility. And Parashat Vayikra, you should know, is not just another text or historical text that deals with an ancient ritual, but rather Parashat Vayikra suggests to each and every one of us a path to really be able to look inwards to yourself. The first word in Parashat Vayikra, right, is Vayikra. But what's interesting about it, the Aleph is small. It's Aleph Zeira, Aleph, small Aleph. And Chazal gave us tremendous meaning why Dafka Aleph is small and so on and so forth. But usually, if we're going to go to the first time the letter Aleph appears in the Torah, it's in
Bereshit.
Bereshit starts with Bet.
Oh, the first time it starts? Elokim.
Elokim. So the word Aleph, the letter Aleph, holds within itself a representation or a meaning that refers to God, to Elokut, and that the superior unity of God Himself, because that's also the word Echad comes. So learning about this, writing it in a smaller fashion, in a smaller font, really teaches us about humbleness. Just as Moshe Rabbeinu, which was the highest person, or the highest prophet ever, always wanted to minimize himself, to really be humble, and that's what allowed him to be the greatest prophet, because he was the most humble person of all. When God created the act of tzimtzum in the world, it was an act of humbleness, to show you that even God is humble. So how could you be arrogant and vain? Can you please explain it to me? I mean, unless you're an absolute buffoon or fool, how can one be arrogant and vain, or Baal Gava, when God Himself is humble? I don't understand that. From a Kabbalistic point of view, the letter Aleph is constructed from the letter Vav and two letters Yud. of Yud. And the Vav symbolizes the continuation of the flow, bringing down the flow from above down, which is the Sphira of
Yesod.
Tiferet, right? And the two Yud represents Chokhmah and Bina. The two Yuds is the Chokhmah and Bina. When the Aleph is written in small, it shows us how HaKadosh Baruch Hu really metzamtzem himself. That's the concept of tzimtzum. And this is done in order to allow us, the creation, to actually be able to become independent, to allow us to have a free choice, and so on and so forth, which is, of course, a major concept in Kabbalah. So, yes, I'll admit, right now we don't have korbanot, we can't bring sacrifices, but the idea is still there. Whether it's in humbleness or the idea of korbanot is in a appropriate attitude and willingness to contribute and to give to a society, something that unfortunately I have to say today, many parts of our people chose not to contribute and not to be responsible, assume responsibility. So let's choose to connect. Let's choose to contribute, to give, to keep and guard our virtues that really guarded and kept us through all the generations. Because if not, all our actions are simply empty. Are simply empty. We have to make sure to continue creating technology and not that technology would create us. That we would not serve technology, that technology will serve us. This is the secret of Sefer Vayikra. It really includes all the possibilities of connections and the appropriate kavanah that are all dependent on us and our actions. So first of all, I want to wish to everybody Chag Kasher v'Sameach and Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.